Afternoon, guys. Today I wanted to show you just what to look for if you're going to be buying some of the really older chainsaws. And I should imagine my experience is probably the same as everybody's, and so I'm a huge fan of Clinton chainsaws, the early American saws. I think they started in early 50s. I think it's 52, but I don't know, I can't remember today. I think it's 52, but in the early 50s, and make a gorgeous selection of chainsaw engines. They were real brutes, in fact. All the early stuff, all completely non-AV and all big displacement engines. And so a couple of my favourites are really difficult to find in anything like nice condition, and so they would be again all the larger capacity ones. So their common size is the 95cc variation. It might be the later D35, or if you can find them, the D65 or D65 Super. And ever so hard to get bits for. So anyway, I recently bought a D65, which bought a D65 and was told it was in fair condition. So I thought, you know, let me show you what people's interpretation is of a fair condition D65. So these were made from circa 1959, 1960, and Clinton, although the company in one form or another lived for, I think it finally closed in 2000, and the site where they used to make it is a historical interest site, and the town where they are is hard to pronounce. I don't know if it's, I think it's Maquoketa, unusual spelling, in Iowa. And but the production of the saws stopped really early because they had problems, and they were bought by various financiers in New York, and then the company had huge financial problems for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but the saws are spectacular. So let me give you a little walk around of a D65 typical used 60-year-old chainsaw. So they were all solid nose bars, the early ones, and this one had a 404 pitch chain, and the chain is in most parts just rusted solid to the bar. And incidentally, this one was classed as in good condition. Good symmetry on the stellite tip. So the chain adjuster is broken but mostly complete. The clutches, they have if you've never seen a Clinton clutch, they have a really unique set of rollers on the inside, and it's a beautiful piece of engineering. So that C's solid. The exhaust is, the cover is missing, as always. A bolt is presumably snapped off here. On the underside, the casing is all rotten and broken away, and turned on its side slightly. So the magnesium alloy is completely rotten. The back foot again completely rotten, screws missing. So it's just about finished, regrettably. And this is a good condition saw. Turn her around. So fuel tank, one cap missing. Spark plug cap arrangement has a nice, normally a lovely mag alloy spark plug cap cover, and they're invariably always gone. This rubber's normally broken, so I won't push it because that's a spare I've been after. That's nice to see that intact. The air filter pipe gone. Turn her around. So it's beautifully engineered, these starter housings. And this one's C solid, and I presume the piston is as well. So they're called the Iron Heart, the engines, and they're just prone to seizing, presumably with the the downward intake of that exhaust, any rot or water or moisture goes straight down into the barrel, and then they just seize. And there's an oil point on the housing with a little ball bearing, and this is obviously all corroded, screws missing, and then all the way around to the front, the little serial number badge showing me it's a D65 1000 Super, and that's the little pulse line you can just see underneath coming at the bottom of the engine. And so this type of saw is typically, you see these for sale around the £100 mark and to £150, and they call this a rare vintage find. So I have to tell you, this one is a very disappointing purchase for me. I believed that the cap was intact and that the side crankcase cover, felling spikes as well, missing, which is a shame because on the D65 they're a gorgeous pair of sprung loaded double spikes, and they're just such a gorgeous piece of engineering. Okay, so that's my recent purchase of a D65 1000. Ooh, little glimpse of something I'm about to show you now in the corner. So I would say to any of you out there, if you're looking at any of the old Clinton saws online and you think, wow, that could be an amazing restoration project, that looks like a bargain for a big engine saw. The 95cc's are really hard to find if they're harder to find anyway than the smaller ones. They were more money in their day. But the things to watch out for will be the seized clutch. If it's running one of the earlier bars, there'll be a ½ inch pitch. The chain is nearly impossible to find. Check for rot on the crankcases because they were just left on the ground. They just rot for a pastime. Top cover's impossible to get. Air filter pipes, pull start assembly, is the engine seized? So, and rear handle assembly, just really difficult bits to find, never mind things like the chain tensioner. So if you see any of these and you think, oh, it looks like a bargain, just ask some prudent questions first. And we haven't even got to the innards yet as to whether or not the ignition system, by the way, is spectacular. It's a high voltage coil assembly which for its day, if you used to spin the flywheel by hand, just by turning like this, you get a spark from a properly configured flywheel setup. Amazing. So just to be aware of, they might look cheap, but they can be an absolute disaster and a complete money pit, and they'll just be an item which you can never ever put back together just because you won't be able to get the rest of the parts. Right, so I shall put this little beauty here. I'm going to show you one of my museum piece D65 Supers, which will almost impossible to get hold of. Okay, here she is. So, 1960, 60 years old, and literally has been a museum piece. And hopefully, I'll do a walk around with the camera. Let me show you what a thing of beauty this old Clinton saw really is. So you can see the old original blacked finish on the beautiful solid nose guide bar with excellent symmetry, stellite tipped, chain pitch. If you look at these links and look at this, they're big. This is a ½ inch pitch chain, just a monster. This is running a circa approximately a 25 inch guide bar. The chain tensioning assembly with the locking bolt at the end intact. The correct castle nut on the top with the two locking nuts. So this is a correct ½ inch pitch 7-tooth sprocket. The gorgeous trumpet silencer with the closure plate and the grill to stop any nonsense going in. Come down. All the paint in beautiful original condition, and these are the telltale scratches whereby this gap to try to get out the 1/2 inch pitch chain. The chain would come around and then scratch this off. But in terms of engine use, she's just not done anything, this saw. It uses what they call a Skinner air filter, which is a brass element. It's got the original one with her. Again, astounding condition. If I'm super critical, she has a couple of tiny splits on the rubber. I had to obtain the... Sorry guys, I rotate the saw. Oh. I had to obtain a new one of these air pipes to connect the carburettor up to the air filter, and that was very difficult to get. This is the manual oil plunger, which is a thing of beauty. All the little brass pipework assembly which feeds the oil to the guide bar. Turn her around slightly. Little isolating fuel tap, correct on-off switch, the correct pull cord, the gorgeous pull starter housing assembly with the correct oil point with the little ball bearing, just going in and out. All the original screws, impossible to find like this. Again, all the original outer casing screws. Oh. And they've all just been very carefully taken out, and I've burnished them with a brass brush, which makes them a little bit more resistant to corrosion and gives them that lovely satin finish. All the overspray still on the carburettor. Underside, absolutely no damage whatsoever. Again, all original bolts on the handles. Gorgeous serial number plate. This little bit of overspray, and here's this little spark plug cap. All mag alloy with the little foam plate to stop it metal on metal. And then the sprung-loaded felling dogs. I love this design on this saw. Gorgeous. It's almost impossible to find them like this. Inside is this little air pulse line which goes to the carburettor, all the way around again. All original overspray on the engine, and again this beautiful 25-inch, 1/2 inch pitch guide bar chain setup. Right. So, if anybody's noticed I've got earmuffs on, that is because this saw is loud. Incredibly loud. So, some things to be aware of with the Clintons. They were, with the tank elevated up high, they're very, very easy to flood. And so they can run up to, I think the official figure is they can run up to a 26 inch bar, but if you have one of the later Supers, then I've seen them with 32-inch bars on, and they would seem to comfortably pull it. So I've never cut with this saw. I've cut with some of my D25s and D35s and my D55s, but this is just such a rare creature to find. So like I say, it's very easy to flood the engine, and on the serial number plate they even have the starting procedure. So make sure I'm in shot, and I will show her starting and the deafening, gorgeous sound that she makes. Take that back a bit. Okay. So, starting procedure the same on all the old ones, which is kill switch, bit of choke, undo the fuel tap on the tank, and you soon know if you flood them because of this opaque, partially see-through air pipe. You'll see you actually get deposits of fuel in there, and earmuffs. fire choke off. Okay, kill switch and then turn off the fuel tap. So a couple of the other things you find about the Clintons is if they're not completely seized, when you pull them over they'll be really low on compression, and so this one's been unusual in every respect. The correct filler caps, the oil plunger assembly with all the correct machine screws intact, all the bodywork screws intact, and the only things that I have hopefully sympathetically changed are the two problem areas, although I still have the original studs as well, are the exhaust studs are a devil for being either graunched or then rounded, so I've put in two correct threaded hardened steel, they're Japanned blacked screws with the correct locking washers on the exhaust, and the faceplate has been re-riveted back in place because the other screws used to rattle out and go flying. And other than that, she is absolutely perfect, complete intact, almost impossible to find. And so interesting stats then. The weight is approximately, with this guide bar, they're about 24 pounds for the power head, and with the guide bar on, they're between about 26 to 27 pounds in weight, and produce a staggering 6 horsepower. So there she is, guys. This is my beautiful Clinton D65. Just a thing of beauty. So, and the only other thing I could be critical of this saw of, if I was critical, was the chain is down to the nubs, so she can't be used for cutting just because there's probably 3mm of teeth left, and although all the teeth are present, really that's that would be such a shame to use that and break that chain. So just beautiful. But another thing I have on my mind is to get the optional 404 sprocket for her, and because these are solid nosed bars and they're 63,000, so they're 0.063 on the gauge, it would mean that you could pick up 404 sprocket up, pick up then the correct number of links on a 063 404 pitch chain, and then she could be put back into service and used, should that be what somebody wanted to do. So that'll be the next thing for this one, is to grab a secondary setup to perhaps show her running as well. Guys, I hope you like that. I'll show her quickly on a restart. But if you see any of these for sale and people say they're not starting, then there's only a few reasons for it, and because the ignition systems, so this one I should say as well, under the flywheel is absolutely perfect with no fins broken, and the ignition coil assembly looks like new. But the reason they don't start is because they are either not sparking anywhere near adequately, or they really are temperamental on compression or the fueling. People just don't know how to set up some of these 60-year-old carburetors. So, kill switch. They say you should never choke as well a warm engine on the Clinton. So hopefully she'll just fire it again straight away. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope that's enjoyable, and I hope maybe some of the tips what to look out for if you're going to buy an old, and not just the Clinton saw, but particularly some of those things on the Clinton engines. They might look like bargains to start with, but to find it like this is near on impossible, but they really are a thing of joy and beauty to have and to own. That's my Clinton D65 Super, and a D65 is not quite so super, but maybe I'll give you an update on that in the future. Bye for now, guys.